And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having a discussion about what's going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news. We'll share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who were able to join us for the live portion. And if you happen to be listening somewhere else, and you wanted to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find us on X at Coffee Talk Chat, and you can find us on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. As we get ready to jump off here, Granny Smith, everybody, if you're wondering what's going on there. She's all up on my keyboard, so I had to get hold of her, right? Troublemaker, that's what she is. As we get ready to chime off here, naturally, I do try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. And I'll say hello to some of the people that have chimed in so far. Here, go lay down someplace. I see Tuck is with us today, as well as Jeff, Brian, Helter, and Dragon have chosen to say hello. Glad you could join us. Hello to everyone else who is listening or otherwise indisposed, who is not able to chime in. Glad you could join us anyways. There's David. As we get ready to jump off here, and I'll get into the nature of the thumbnail here in a little bit. We will start off. Actually, we may as well bring this up because this is the hot topic news of the day outside of just the meeting with Carney yesterday, and that is India. India and Pakistan at it again. Yeah, that's what Puck says, Indian tanks rolling into Kashmir. So, and that's what we have here. This is Daily Caller. India reportedly fired missiles into Pakistan. Pakistan has also, by the way, made reports that they shot down 5 Indian jets, which India denies, said it didn't happen. I mean, those two haven't gotten along. They weren't getting along when the British were in charge. And when the British left, and after the whole thing with Gandhi, when they separated into 2 nation states, and all the Muslims basically went to Pakistan, and all the Hindus stayed in India. I mean, they've been at each other's throats since like at least 1947, officially. I see Fluke Man has joined us as well as JJ. Glad you could make it today. But here we go. And this is the Daily Mail again. Daily Caller, excuse me. India reportedly launched attacks on 9 Pakistani targets in disputed territories and other regions, according to Reuters. The attack, titled Operation Sindoor, targeted 9 sites in Pakistan and the disputed Jammu and Kashmir regions under partial Pakistani control, partial being the key word there, killing at least 8 and injuring 38, according to Associated Press. The attacks come after a terrorist attack in Falagam, Kashmir, left at least 24 dead in the Indian-controlled section of the disputed region. India accused Pakistan of supporting the militants responsible for the attacks, although no group has so far claimed any responsibility. Concerted wires are pictured at the Krishna Gadi Pass in Poonch district of Jammu. All that they're talking about the photograph. I hate when they do that. You got to put the description of the photograph under the photograph, people, not like in the middle of the text. That makes me feel like AI wrote this. So no big surprise here. Pakistan and India at it again. Armored is here. He says the U.S. will tariff every shot fired. Maybe. And Puck says it's the classic tale of the region of pieces versus the world. It's all disputed territory, half controlled by this and half controlled by that. You know that none of that works. It all falls apart eventually. Those 2 people groups have never really gotten along. The British kept them in check after Gandhi effectively drove the British Empire out of India. All hell broke loose, which is exactly what the British Empire said was going to happen. If we walk away, you're going to be killing each other. And that's what happened. And they agreed to separate, but the two nation states have never gotten along. Sven says we need to have Operation Act a Fool with Ludacris playing over helicopter speakers. Yeah, right. I say let them all fight. Let them fight and everybody stay out of it. I mean, sometimes you just got to let it go. Everybody always wants to interfere and break it up. I mean, this has been boiling for decades. It's been boiling for decades. What are you going to do? But that's the top news story. It's still hard to determine exactly what is and is not the truth. There are a lot of terrorist attacks that occur in India as a result of Pakistan, because that is the Muslim model, period. They love that stuff. They do it all over the world, and India is no exception. Paul has joined us. Glad you could make it today. Now, before we get to the nature of the thumbnail, there's something else that slipped totally under the radar. It hardly been touched on in the media, and I thought it was fascinating. It's been ongoing for a few months, and it culminated about 5 or 6 days ago. JJ says if it doesn't go nuclear, India can hand Pakistan its ass. Very likely. Very likely. So that is pertaining to, and again, we'll get to the nature of the thumbnail here in a minute with Carney, and I found some interesting information that I'll share on that entire subject. Who noticed this? This is a USA Today article. Bishop T.D. Jakes steps down from megachurch and hands leadership to his daughter and son-in-law. T.D. Jakes officially retired. Okay, did you notice this, and do you know why? So Bishop T.D. Jakes, and that's hard for me to even say because this man is about as far away from being biblical as you can get. He's in my opinion, he's a complete fraud. He's like Joel Osteen or Joyce Myers or any of them. Man's a fraud, and he fleeces people, and he takes a sentence or sometimes a few words out of the Bible completely out of context and uses it to sell books and cash checks. He is he leads people on a road to hell. Okay, basically. But the article reads, Bishop T.D. Jakes announced he will be stepping down and handing leadership of the Potter's House Church, a non-denominational Christian church, to his daughter and her husband. On Sunday, Jakes, 67, announced his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts and son-in-law Tory Roberts will take over the church that he founded in 1996. Yeah, it's that long he's been doing this. He made the announcement during an emotional sermon where he asked the congregation to welcome their new pastors with open arms. Who remembers when, oh God, what is his name? He does Medea, looks like Frankenstein. Donated $1 million and laid hands on Jakes, and Jakes vibrated and fell out like in one of those weird African churches. Who remembers that? Quote, "This is legacy, not because they're kin, but because they're kind. They've immersed themselves into the DNA of this church for years. So I want you to dig deep into your pockets and pass around that plate." No, he didn't say that, but it happened, I promise you. The pastor said that while he is stepping down from his current role, he wants to continue doing work with the community, i.e., he wants to keep getting a fat check. As your co-pastor-elect, oh no, this is Jakes' daughter. As your co-pastor-elect, I'm grateful, I'm honored, Jake's daughter said as she was called onto the stage. As your daughter, I'm so happy you're going to get some rest. Have you seen this in the media? And Kimberly is here. Thanks for joining us. Now, what's fascinating about this is, why is he retiring? Well, he's just acting like, oh, well, it's just time to pass the torch. That's how this is being displayed. That it's just time. It's just time to pass the torch for his church, and he passes it down to his daughter so he can keep all that money in the family. Is it any coincidence? Go and check the timeline. He had a stroke on stage, right? TD Jakes had a stroke on stage like a day or two after Diddy got arrested, and all those videos of him at Diddy parties started circulating. Anyone catch that? Because you can find video of TD Jakes, look it up on YouTube, at Diddy parties tearing up. And please don't give me the line about, Puck says non-denominational equals no rules. Well, most Christian churches don't have very many biblical-based rules anyways. They just have church doctrine. They just have their own doctrine. But shortly after that incident, shortly after Diddy got arrested, and then video started circulating, and there is video of Jakes at these parties and pictures from him at these parties. Suddenly, he don't feel good, and now he wants to retire. That's trying to get ahead of it, Jakes. Is that what's going on? And don't feed me the line about Jesus used to hang around with sinners and was friends with sinners. And no, Jesus, nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about Jesus being anybody's friend. And just because he would go and minister to people of ill repute doesn't mean he hung around with them. He was not getting jiggy with it at orgies. Okay? This is a very different situation. And he's about as far from Jesus as you're going to get. About as far from Yeshua being the proper name. Being the proper name. So I just thought it was a real interesting coincidence. I bet you he had a stroke or a heart attack, right? On stage. I bet you he did. Worrying what else is going to come out about it as the trial goes on. He was named in the trial because the trials have started. His name's already come up. I don't know what connection they tried to make, but his name came up. And there it is. And again, keeping it in the family. Is that his daughter? I'm trying to see here. Oh, that's Jakes and his wife. I wonder what their net worth is. And then there's the daughter. Oh, God, she's got a lot of makeup on. That's the daughter and the son-in-law. Look how he's looking. Look at that expression on his face. Like he's like, yeah, show me the money. Show me the money. Licking his chops. Puck said stroke on stage was that divine intervention. Indeed. Could have been. Could have been. Who knows? If it was divine intervention, he should have been barbecued with lightning. And Jane has joined us. Indeed. Indeed. Who are these people? I wonder what TD Jakes' net worth is. But if you could even find out what the actual net worth really is, because he can hide a lot of his assets in the church as a nonprofit. Okay, I looked it up really quick. It says $20 million, not counting any connection to the church, which it could be 5 times that much when you tie Potter's house into it. Can you imagine? Must be nice, living in the lap of luxury. Living in the lap of luxury. And the article I opened up real quick, it says clergymen are often among the wealthiest celebrities in the world. True. And he is a celebrity. He is a celebrity pastor. He is a celebrity pastor. Absolutely. But yeah, coincidence? So there are some who would say that there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. And we'll go ahead and we'll get into the nature of the thumbnail here now, which of course is Carney visiting the White House and meeting with Donald Trump. And to get anything that's not too jaded, I got to go all the way to Al Jazeera News. A lot of really one-sided articles. A lot of really one-sided articles. I had to go to Al Jazeera just to get some plain, straightforward points. It says key takeaways from Trump's meeting with Canada's PM Mark Carney. I think Carney's a good name for him because you know what a carny is, or what it used to be, because there are no more carnivals really. No more sideshow freaks, no more carny hustlers. So despite conflicts over tariffs and Canadian sovereignty, Trump, and there we go again with the Canadian sovereignty bullshit. Trump and Carney exchanged praise in a warm Oval Office meeting. Hey, how you doing there, buddy? Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has made his much anticipated first visit to the White House as his country and the United States continue to spar over trade, tariffs, and the prospect of reimagining, their shared borders. Seated across from Carney in the Oval Office on Tuesday, U.S. President Trump continued to advocate for Canada becoming part of its southern neighbor. Did he really? Or a part of his southern neighbor, yeah, but not like part of the United States. Carney reiterated his firm commitment to defending Canadian sovereignty, though he spoke only briefly during his half-hour appearance with Trump in the Oval Office. Quote, as you know, from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale, Carney tells Trump in a gesture to the president's background as a real estate developer. He then referenced his mandate from Canada's recent federal elections, which reflected growing anti-Trump sentiment among Canadian voters. I don't know if that's true or not. There is anti-Trump sentiment in Canada, but it's coming primarily from politicians in Canada, including Carney. Having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign these last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever, Carney said of his country. Overall, however, the meeting was cordial, with the two leaders exchanging warm words and Trump teasing a breakthrough with Houthis and armed group in Yemen. So let's see here. Trump, did it jump? Give me a second while I catch up. Trump weighs in on Canada's election. What else did they talk about? Trump and Carney exchanged praise. Big deal. That's just protocol. Someone should explain that to Zelensky. Trump touts breakthrough with Houthis. They already said that. I didn't see 5, unless this just skipped because the ads make this skip occasionally. Carney said Canada's not for sale. Yeah, we get it. They've been saying that. Big deal. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What I thought was interesting about this, first of all, Carney was installed. Carney was installed, just like Trudeau was installed. And Trudeau has ruined Canada for the last 10 years. And now Carney steps in, acts like everything wrong in Canada is Trump's fault. Trump's been president for 2 months. What's your excuse for the last decade while you continue those policies? I'm just waiting for them to start firing off on heavy carbon taxes on their people. I'm waiting for it. Carney was partially responsible for aiding with seizing the funds of the Canadian truckers, was he not? Did I miss something? I'm pretty sure. Carney was installed because he'll play ball. And he was all fired up when they announced him as the new prime minister about how much the US sucks and about how things will never be the same again and how they're going to have to look elsewhere and how Trump ruins everything, and ran his mouth and ran his mouth and ran his mouth, and then ended up in the Oval Office and basically had nothing to say except for a little clever euphemism about Canada not being for sale. As in real estate, there are some things that are not for sale. So he can act like he's on that agenda. And once again, the United States is not trying to buy Canada. We know this. Trump said that as a joke. If you go back and you look at the original video where Trump first said that in a campaign speech or in a speech, he was kidding. But the media, knowing that most people are not very bright, pretended like it was real and people believe it. And, you know, Trump will go with that. What the hell? Why not? You want to act like it's real? I'll show you real. Incredible. Paul reminds us of that. He says Carney was put in. Yes, installed, definitely. But he ran his mouth. He was very aggressive. We read the stories a couple of weeks ago where Carney went on and on and on about how things will never be the same again and Canada forever and Canadians unite. And he really set it up for everything wrong in Canada from that point forward to use the United States as the scapegoat for it. And Caps is here, said stupid war based on religion, disputes, and lies and violence, and also shouldn't give money to religious figures. And for anyone who says you have to go to church, you don't have to. No, Caps is correct. Going to church is not biblical. There's nothing in the Bible to support going to church. The Sabbath day is supposed to be a day of rest. You take the day off, you don't go to work on that day. Whatever your profession is, hang it up for a while and just relax and just remember the connection there. It doesn't say go to church. It doesn't say to go to church and worship and all of that. That comes from Catholicism. Raccoon has joined us. Glad you could make it. But he had a lot of shit to talk, Carney. And then he had his opportunity, and the tune changed when he was sitting across from Trump. And it's funny how the Canadian leaders keep doing that. They talk a lot of shit when they're on their side of the border. And then when they come to the United States and they get confronted, suddenly everything's nice and calm. He's got nothing to say. And I'm waiting to see what he says when he goes back to Canada, if he's still going to shoot his mouth off. Peter was wondering if he lost the election, would they just have canceled the election and banned the opposition like they're doing in Europe? They might, because they're following that same model. Actually, they're ahead of the model a little bit in Canada because they've got the people in Canada hemmed up a lot worse than the people in Europe. Canada and Australia are almost on tier right now. They're almost on par. So yeah, it went really cordial, and he really had almost nothing to say, and they had a 30-minute slot to fill. And so Trump ended up doing most of the talking because Trump knew the cameras were rolling, and he had to keep the conversation going. We can't just sit here and stare at each other. Somebody has to say something. Carney had nothing to say. Oh, and look, someone who's never been a subscriber to the channel pretending like he's offended. Poor baby. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Sometimes you got to let the baby have their bottle. but the Canada is actually in a lot more trouble in all of this than anyone realizes. And I've got an interesting website I want to pull up. It's got a lot of useful information. It's called tradingeconomics.com, and it has the import export numbers for every country. And there's some things I wanted to point out here. So tradingeconomics.com we're going to go to here in a minute. And Phil is here. Glad you could join us today. Flukeman says most Canadians hate Trudeau but voted for the next prime minister who is the same party and has the same ideologies. He's even worse. Carney. And it's sort of the same thing as like in the United States. You know how in the U.S., Flukeman, you have your popular vote, and then you have the Electoral College. And the Electoral College is what really has the weight. They have a similar system in Canada. So the people can vote, but then they're the ones that ultimately pick. And they chose their own. They chose their own. And Ian is here. He says he's a Canadian. He says, please free us from the liberal hordes. I wish we could help you. Hey, I would rather honest, true, natural-born Canadians were jumping our border instead of everybody else, because a lot of them come across from the north as well as the south. And Cap says, makes you wonder what they're hiding from us right now and what's really going on. Who knows? Jane says, do you think we're secretly under attack by Chinese or Iranian drones shooting lasers into gas lines and buildings to blow up? It's happened like 6 times in the last 3 months. I don't think so, but it's not outside the realm of possibility that there could be sabotage going on. Plus, a lot of our systems are older than you would be led to believe. But here we go. This is, again, tradingeconomics.com. And it has import and export breakdowns for every country. This is the United States exports by country. And it shows you how much we're sending to other countries. Okay. So here you got Canada is 17% of our exports. Mexico is 17% of our exports. And it also tells you a dollar value. So if you highlight it, right? So what is 17% of exports to Canada worth? $348 billion in US currency. China receives 7.1% from us. And remember, most of that is liquefied natural gas. Netherlands, 4.4%. United Kingdom, 4%. Japan, 4%, and so on. So 17% of what we sell globally is going to Canada. Okay? But as far as imports, all right, and I'm gonna switch this to U.S. imports. How much are we receiving from Canada? Let me just flip the page. Our number one importer is actually Mexico at 16% of what we receive from overseas, with a value of $510 billion. Keep in mind, a lot of that is like what, automobiles, machine parts, and things like this, and produce. China is 14%, and then Canada is 13%, followed by Germany. So Canada falls into number 3 for imports. And a lot of that is going to be like lumber and raw materials. But this is the one that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to switch to one more. I'm going to switch to one more. And it's going to be Canada's imports. All right. And again, this is tradingeconomics.com. And you can find this information on every country. This is Canada imports by country. 50% of all imports coming into Canada are coming from the United States, followed by China at 12% and Mexico in third place at 6.2%. So literally half of what half of what Canada receives for imports is coming from the United States. They're into us for 50% of their imported consumer goods or raw materials or whatever else. I think a lot of it is actually meat and dairy and produce. And they've got a lot of tariffs on dairy products too. And that's important. That's important. And Canada, honestly, from a political standpoint, never should have let themselves get into a position where they're that heavily reliant on any single country for imports. I mean, granted, it is convenient because the United States is literally right there, which is also probably why they have all sorts of wonky tariffs on the U.S. anyway, to begin with. Jane was saying influencers say next week's shelves will be more empty in grocery stores, etc. We'll see. And Ian tells us 9 million voted left and 8 million voted right, and we're a divided nation. Yeah, everybody, you're seeing that all around, though. You're seeing that all around, all over the Western world, in Europe, in the United States, North America. It seems like everything is almost split down the middle, and to me, that's a little too convenient. That everything is always split right down the middle. That everything is always almost 50-50 with everything. I've been talking about that for a couple of years in the U.S. Any big election, especially president or a senator, a representative, a mayor of a big city, a governor, that everything is like split by a hair, and it's like, come on, all of them. It makes me feel like the whole thing is rigged. And I'll keep putting up some comments here. This is from Ian explaining his system a little bit. Said Montreal and Vancouver control about a third of Canadian districts. Big cities are so far left, they're gone. And we see the same problem in the United States, Ian, with like California. It's another C word. California, where San Francisco and Los Angeles and places like that are very, very blue, as they say, and the rest of the state really isn't. But that's where most of the population is centered. You see it in Massachusetts, you see it in New York. It's not blue states, it's blue cities. And they screw everything up. New York Patriot has joined us today, as well as Shell, who says Canada's not for sale. Nobody wants it, Shell. Nobody's trying to actually buy it. But again, you see how reliant they are. And it's not just an issue of Canada making this mistake, because the US has made this mistake as well. Every country should be more reliant on its own raw materials, its own produce, its own manufacturing than anything else. than anything else. And too many of these Western countries import everything. That's another advantage that Russia has. If they were cut off from the rest of the world, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care because they manufacture most of what they need and they grow most of what they need already. They learned that lesson. The West hasn't. The West hasn't learned that lesson. And I'll go back to United States import again here. Way too much is relied upon from other countries. Although I admit I was surprised to see Mexico ahead of China on that chart. And once again, that's tradingeconomics.com. It's a very interesting website. And you can find data on most countries there. But that reliance on imports of any kind of goods from any country, it makes you weak. And then when they cut you off, you're screwed. And America should have learned that lesson during the oil crisis in the 70s. And I was around. I remember that. I remember when people were waiting 2-3 hours in a line of cars at gas stations and then getting rationed gas for their car. And after that, that never should have happened again. That never should have happened again. And the United States put itself right back in that position, starting with the Clinton administration. Starting with the Clinton administration, we put ourselves right back in that position. And again, it's not just the United States. Canada did it. Most of the countries in Europe did it, and then they shot themselves in the foot with the European Union. It's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Oh, I got an image I wanted to share. We talked about this the other day, but I got an image I wanted to share because this is what they're promoting now to try to get sympathy for NPR and PBS getting their funding cut. You see there, it says, for those of you who can't see, I've been seeing this circulating on social media. I want my tax dollars to go to Elmo, not Elon. I don't want my tax dollars going to either. How about that? First of all, Elon's not getting my tax dollars. He's not pocketing those savings. Elon's not even getting paid. He's not even getting a check. He's doing it for free. The idea behind Doge is to stop wasting money, one, and number two, to break up government bureaucracy and government redundancies. There's way too many agencies and way too many redundancies. Way too many people doing the exact same job, tripping over each other. Way too many committees. Way too many committees. So Elon's not getting any of that money. But I sure as hell don't want Elmo getting it, i.e. Sesame Street, i.e. PBS. As we talked about before, PBS used to just run telethons and earn just enough to keep going. Earn just enough to keep going. And now they get tons of money from the federal government. And all it's done is made them fat and lazy and allowed for them to be set up and be manipulated to inject political rhetoric into everything they do. And it's garbage now. Sesame Street is garbage. And I wonder if these people have even seen it in the last 20 years or longer. It's probably been worse for a lot longer than that. Elmo indeed. Elmo was when it started getting bad. Elmo was when it started, Sesame Street started to suck. It's what JJ said. Maybe if liberals watched more Sesame Street, they might end up a little brighter and not make stupid shit like this. But they would have to watch the classic Sesame Street from like what, 1968? Was that right? When the pilot came out? 1968 to the mid 80s or just before Elmo? That's when it was good. That's when it was good. Kimberly said something I found interesting while being a tax preparer was the gentleman who married a Canadian lady had to prove on his tax return to Canada that he could financially support her. Interesting. And Tuck said, doesn't Sesame Street make a mint every year just from merchandise? Yes. They make a ton of money. They make money hand over fist. Hand over fist. But now, this story, this is interesting, coming up here. This is going to be a Hill article. This is going to be a Hill article. And this is the media pretending like Biden is back. It says Biden breaks his silence and rips Trump with 5 takeaways. Oh no, please, not Biden making fun of Trump. Former President Biden broke his silence. Well, is it really that he broke his silence, or that it's harder and harder to get him out in public without making a complete ass out of himself? You saw how bad it was the last time they rolled him out. Broke his silence on the Trump administration this week in his first interview since leaving the White House. He sharply criticized President Trump for a variety of things, including foreign policy, his fiery meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and his leadership of the GOP. Biden also weighed in on his decision to suspend his campaign, blah, blah, blah. So BBC reporter Nick Robinson asked Biden if he left the 2024 race too late or if the former president believed he should have withdrawn earlier to give someone else more time. And he says, I don't think it would have mattered. That's a quote from Biden. I don't think it would have mattered. Biden highlighted that former president or former vice president Kamala Harris was, quote, a good candidate who was fully funded. He shared that his administration accomplished what it set out to do, and its agenda became so successful it was difficult to walk away. Successful in what? Dismantling the United States? And I think it's really interesting that Biden, and this might be a Freudian slip here, because I like to try to pick apart how they say things. That she was a good candidate. Why? Because she was fully funded. Which people complain. They said, oh, Elon bought the election. I've heard that. And he did make some big donations to the Trump administration. But the Biden administration still made much more money than Trump did during the campaign, and still spent $1.2 billion, the most in history, on any presidential campaign. And they still lost and overspent because they walked away owing money and didn't even pay their own people that were on the campaign. The people that were running the campaign, many of them didn't get a check. And I don't know if they ever did, because I never saw a follow-up on that. And all he has to say is that he thinks he did a good job with his agenda. JJ said probably the episodes we watched when we were kids. Yeah, when the Electric Company was still on the air. Electric Company was a good show too. And Ian has to go back to work so he can pay for someone who doesn't. No kidding. That's about how it feels like, doesn't it? Fluke Man says Trump's going to going to court to try to reverse Biden's pardons because he believes Biden used auto pen to sign the documents. Yeah, I believe he did actually. And auto pen was used on most of his executive orders as well. And that brings into question whether or not they were officially legal. Although I haven't seen anything much more on that. But yeah, the Biden campaign became the Harris campaign. And this is really my takeaway from this, without even getting into Biden and whatever he was scripted to say to tear Trump down. That's the most interesting thing he said to me. Kamala Harris was a good candidate because she was fully funded. Basically, to me, what you're saying is enough money was dumped into it that she should have won. They made the Biden/Harris campaign, which, by the way, technically it was illegally transferred from Biden to Harris because that money should have been returned when Biden wasn't going to run. And then they could donate it to Harris if they wanted to. That never took place. They had $1.2 billion to play with. They burned through it in 2 months, spent too much, operated on credit, was in debt, and didn't pay their people. These are the people you want to elect. I'm seeing circulating also memes on social media that say, we're ready to have a Democrat government. You already had that shit. How did it work out? How did that work out for you? I meant what I said when I stated that I'm prepared to hold still. I meant what I said when I stated that I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation, the transition government, but things moved so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away. Well, you really didn't have much of a choice. And he goes on to say that it didn't make much of a difference. It wouldn't have made a difference whether he bowed out early or not, that essentially you're admitting that Harris was still going to lose regardless. $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. And Kimberly says it, yeah, Kamala still couldn't pay her staff. No. And Marvel fans joined us. Glad you could join us today. The New York Patriots said perfect example of a Freudian slip. I believe it is. I think that's the slip of one of the. If I had a top 10 list of Freudian slips for the year, that's got to be on it. I don't care about his take on foreign policy because he was terrible at it himself. What the hell is going on with foreign policy? Quote from Biden. What the hell is going on here? What president ever talks like that? That's not who we are. We're about freedom, democracy, opportunity, not about confiscation. Really? You're not about confiscation. Tuck says in their lifetime they had Carter, Clinton, Obama, and Biden. Nothing got done. Throw in the towel, Bolsheviks. Yeah. Carter was terrible. Despite how they talk about him now, Reagan wasn't bad. Bush was not very good. Clinton was worse. Bush Jr. was bad. Obama was bad. Biden was abysmal. But yeah, that's the Freudian slip of the year so far. She was a good candidate because she was fully funded. All the money was there. That's what he's saying. That's what I'm hearing. The money was there. Why didn't she win? I guess we didn't grease the right palms. You may as well just say that. We didn't pay off enough people. JJ reminds us of the Iran nuclear deal. And that freed up billions of dollars that was given to Iran, and Iran used it for, guess what? Terrorist activities. Terrorist activities. If you want to see more bad behavior, from politicians, this just happened in Atlanta yesterday, and it's a Tampa Free Press article. Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett caught cutting disabled people in line to get aboard her flight on time. There she is in the photograph or in the video clip, arguing with the clerk so that she can cut line. And there's people in this line in wheelchairs because you know they get priority for boarding, right? If you're disabled or elderly, you get priority. Same thing at the post office. If you're disabled or you're very an elderly person, you're out there with a walking stick, you look like you're 80 years old, they will come and get you and bring you right to the front. And there's nothing to be said about it. Sir, come right up here. Airport does the same thing. Well, oh no, I'm Jasmine Crockett, bitch. I get priority. And she cut them. They caved. Democrat Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett facing backlash after images on social media show the left-wing firebrand cutting in line in front of passengers in wheelchairs to board a flight in Atlanta this weekend. Remember, she also made fun of Governor Abbott because he's in a wheelchair. You know, he's paralyzed from the waist down, and she's been caught insulting him before, making fun of his legs, calling him Hot Wheels and stuff like that because he's in a wheelchair. But I mean, and is that going to stop people from voting for her? Is that going to stop people from listening to her? Or at what point do people say enough is enough already? This self-centered person. You know what it makes me think of? George Costanza on Seinfeld during the fire. Remember, there was the kid's birthday party, and there was smoke coming from the kitchen, and it turned out it was just some cookies that were burning in the oven. And the clown went and put it out. And he says, "Hey, it's okay. It's just that, something was burning in the oven. I shut it off." But he started screaming, "Fire, fire!" And he plowed through people, and he knocked down an old woman in a walker and ran over her while she laid there and ran through the door and slammed it shut behind him. Who remembers that? That's what it makes me think of. I'm Jasmine Crockett, bitch. I get on this bitch first. Can you imagine? I don't know what she actually said. I don't think there's an actual quote of the banter between her and the ticket agent here. Not the ticket agent. What do they call them now? At the when you're waiting to board at the terminal. I forget what you call that clerk. You can see the attitude just in the photograph. You can see it through her wig. Just in the photograph, you can get a sense of that attitude right there, and you can see people. You can see at least that one woman in a wheelchair there, waiting, and she's very vocal. Jasmine, very vocal, very anti-Trump, very confrontational. And once again, just like that Indian guy that we showed the other day, the one that was calling for Trump's impeachment, who, when his laboratory went into bankruptcy, left, 118 beagles that they were torturing to die because he didn't want to be bothered with them. This is who these people are. I tell you, there's just something about this party, that is the Democratic Party, that attracts people that are this bad. And as I've said a million times, it's not as if necessarily Republicans are above reproach, but they don't seem to be nearly as monstrous. Nearly as monstrous. Puck said, same episode, George ate a pastry from the garbage can in the kitchen. I think that was a different episode. Because in that one, the whole episode was focused on him trying to live down, getting caught picking up the, I think it was a Boston cream pie, wasn't it? Versus him trying to prove he wasn't a coward for running from the kitchen. I think those are two different episodes. Now, here's something you'll get a kick out of. A lawsuit won by a black parent for the school being too black. And this is an Atlanta public school, Atlanta Black Star News. You're going to kick out of this. Where's all people when you need them? Where's all people? Atlanta Black Star News. Atlanta public schools admit teacher made poor decision or poor choice to segregate elementary school classrooms by race, and the school will have to pay $500,000 to settle with black parent who filed the lawsuit. Ironically, though, without digging into this entire article, black parent on the left and school official who made that decision on the right side. The school, wherever this is situated, I forget what county this was. Let me see. Atlanta Public Schools. She learned her daughter's elementary school separated schools by race, reached a $500,000 settlement with the district, approved by the board this Monday. Okay. Atlanta Elementary School. So it is the Atlanta School District. All right. They segregated it, and the black parent brought the lawsuit, even though it was black school officials that made that decision, because it violated her daughter's rights to be segregated. And it's hilarious because I bet you they did that because, unfortunately, people of color are always calling for segregation. They want to be involved in everything, but at the same time, they want to be separate but equal. We want to be integrated into everything, but we want our own classroom. We want our own prom. We want our own this and that. Never happy. And this parent called them on it and won. And the school district was forced to settle out of court. How's that for a shocker? How's that for a shocker? Usually you would expect a story like this to be opposites, and it's not. And she's not, but she is right, though. It's either integrated or it isn't. And your system says integrated, so why do you have separate classrooms? What is this, 1922, Mississippi? The unfortunate part about this, of course, she wins $500,000. Who's paying for it? You are. That's tax money. Your tax dollars are paying for that. That's the part that sucks. Fluke Man surprised she only got 500,000. Hey, I'll take it. Give me $500,000. Give me $500,000. I guarantee I'll do this every day for the next 10 years. How's that? Nobody watching this show has 500,000 to spare. It's okay. It's quite all right. It's quite all right. As we jump to the debt clock, that's right, it's time for the debt clock. And we'll look at where Doge projections are, which currently chime in at $404 billion. It's up $4 billion from yesterday, pretty much. $404 billion in projected savings, courtesy of Doge. And keep in mind, they've barely cut into less than a dozen agencies thus far. And there are more than 420 government agencies on the list. More than 420 agencies on the list. That's a lot. That's a lot. Although they've plowed along pretty quickly in such a short time, but you don't want to go too fast because you'll miss something. Paul said it's not enough. The woman's getting over 750,000 for saying an N-word. Yeah, I know. I should go. Maybe I should do that. Be out in the street. Hey, ninja. And have somebody film it. Did you just say such and such? I'm going to dox you. It's okay. No one likes me anyways. Show me the money. And I'll put a campaign out. What did I do? Oh, my God. I know. And I'll get $750,000. And I will throw a party and I will invite you all. How's that? Anyways, we are at the top of the hour. So I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And you can find me on at Coffee Talk Chat on X. Did I say that? I think I did. I think I repeated myself. Anyways, thank you everybody for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will catch you again tomorrow.